In all the maniacal machinations and spewings and lies and megalomania that we're seeing almost on the hour, I don't want to forget that Trump and Hegseth ordered the mass murder of children within the first hour or two of their epic horror meted out upon Iranian civilians. These people run around talking about freeing Iranian women, freeing Iranian girls. Celebrities in Europe were cutting their hair in support of Iranian women protesting the hijab or the chadar. Yes, we saw that hypocrisy. Over and over again, Muslim women around the world were embarrassed for these European women. And then, of course, Gaza just, blew the lid off of their hypocrisy. But I do not want to forget that Trump and Hegseth ordered the strike on a school where majority of those killed were girls and their teachers. And that every night the parents of the dead children are sleeping near the graves of their children. So maybe Hegseth and Trump may be trying to make us forget, but we won't. It is a grave, horrendous war crime. It is a war crime. And I am sick and tired of the hypocrisy. And let's just remember, as far as I can tell, except for Pedro Sanchez, not a single European leader, male or female, has categorically expressed horror, empathy, condolence for what had been done to these children. Not a word of condemnation from European leaders. But why are we surprised? It is the same people who could not bring themselves to express any sympathy for more than 20,000 children being massacred in Gaza on a daily basis. At least 200 a day were being massacred in Gaza every single day. Not one of these leaders found it in their heart to express any sympathy. The butcher of Gaza has now started to butcher children in Lebanon. Netanyahu and his goon squad are telling us that they will follow the exact same playbook in Lebanon as they did in Gaza. We don't have to search around to figure this mystery out. It was in front of us. We saw it live streamed. Targeting children, burning people in their tents, targeting hospitals, targeting NICUs, targeting babies in incubators, shooting kids in the head, having residential buildings collapse on top of entire families. We saw it. Children being detained, being sent to death camps, starved. death by starvation, if not by a bullet, bulldozers running over people, Hind Rajab being massacred, begging for help, a 6-year-old child. And that same unit that massacred her is now operating in southern Lebanon. Trump will now go down in history, and Hegseth, as a butcher of children in Iran. Netanyahu, his bosom buddy and partner in this horror, is already a war criminal with warrants out for his arrest. Europe appeased Hitler. Nobody stopped Netanyahu from what he did in Gaza. And really nobody is stopping him from what he is doing in Lebanon. And of course he's killing civilians in Iran. Of course they're hitting hospitals. Of course they're hitting paramedics. Of course they're hitting ambulances. That is how they terrorized Gaza. That is how they're terrorizing southern Lebanon. That is how they're terrorizing Iran. And no one is going to stop him. That is just the base truth. It is the same Europeans who collapsed the world order in order to bend the knee to Israel. Starmer, Macron, Merz, Meloni, and of course the Biden administration. Mr. Blinken is trying to do the out damn spot at Harvard the other day, but not being able to get away from his role. Not being able to say, we made a big mistake. I am so sorry. I can't sleep at night. No. He started to do the hierarchy of trauma, the hierarchy of victims, until he realized what was coming out of his mouth. And then he had to say, oh, everybody's trauma is equal. Really? Because we heard over and over again about how horrible Russia is and that they're kidnapping Ukrainian children. The Ukrainian angels are being kidnapped. Well, at least they're alive. At least they're alive and recoverable. 20,000 Palestinian children were massacred that we know of. We don't even know how many are buried under the rubble. There is nobody to mourn them because the entire families, entire bloodlines have been erased. Yes, that is what genocide is. That is exactly what genocide is. And Israel in so many ways is saying they're willing to do the same thing in Lebanon, and their objective is different than America. They're willing to do the same thing in Iran. Iran just won't let them. It's a fight back. It is existential. But yes, Trump and Hegseth ordered the massacre of children during the first hour of this war. They will go down in history as war criminals. And that is how majority of human beings are going to regard them. So let us not forget, what happened in the first hours of February 28th. And let us not forget that the parents of those children are sleeping every night on their graves. And in Gaza and in Lebanon, the IDF is desecrating graves. And in the West Bank, the barbaric settlers are desecrating cemeteries. But that has been a long-standing practice because it is genocidal. Leave no trace. Leave no trace. Tabula rasa. Nobody was here before. Nobody was here before. And they're doing the same thing. But in Iran, the parents won't let you forget. Night after night, they're sleeping either on the graves or near the graves of their murdered children, and Trump and Hegseth murdered them. That is just fact. And let us not forget it.